Well, I actually was really a lazy person for making videos, and now I have just decided that I'm going just to do it. No editing, no fancy stuff, just explanation of the first C program very well. I'm gonna try to use this weird thing which is like a board or whatsoever, and yeah, we're gonna use that right now. So in order to explain that program right now that we're seeing. So before we really dive too much again, I know that I have explained like kind of, you know, that program before in the previous video, but the previous video wasn't really that good. You know, it was about slides, etc., and those kind of stuff. Well, so let's just try to explain each line perfectly. So when we come here, which means include, this C program, include, means import for us. So you can think of the programming language as libraries, all right? Those libraries are unique. Those libraries have some kind of job. Alright, so you can think of the C programming language looks like this. Those are the tools that they've created in the C programming language. For example, they have created for us a file called a file called stdio.h. So this file has some which means this file has some specific test cases. It has some specific usage. All right, so you can think of it as standard input output. So when you're dealing, for example, with printing to the standard output, what is the standard output? The standard output is the terminal, or the terminal, which means out. All right, and then the standard input is that when you, for example, your program gets the input from the user, all right, using the keyboard. That's it. And the standard means it's the standard library, right? So that's perfectly fine. So if I want some library, I'm just gonna do that, include, which means import for me these tools because I need it. And then I will come here and just write the name of the library I need that holds the tool I need. All right? So I'm just gonna come here and alright, that's, I'm sorry for that. Oh my god. It's really bad when you're recording. Alright, bravo. Wait, that's a great thing. I'm sorry. However, we can just go back. stdlib, alright? So this is a library, another one, another file, another part of the C programming language that has some special functionalities that we would need, for example, for something. So here you can again include something else. All right, you can include, for example, string.h, all right, which has some functionalities for dealing with strings inside of the programming language. Good. Now let's move to this block here. All right, that block is simply a function. All right, I know that we all wasn't really liking maths when we were in high school, etc., so that was fine. But what is a function? A function is just like a tool that gets input and brings us output. All right, so it gets an input and like returns for us an output. For example, all right, if I wrote a function called f of x, all right, f of x, it takes an x variable, and then it multiplies this x by itself, which means this is a cube. All right, cube. No, it's not a cube. It means that we'll just multiply it by itself. All right. I think you've got the idea, right? Because I don't really have the specific word. Um, so, okay, perfect. Okay. And now in programming, there is the same thing. All right. The program is a bunch of functions that we collect together in order to get some job done. All right. So, so we can think of it like this. We want to count the average of something. So I'm gonna come here and want to count the average. What is the average? The average is the summation divided on the number of the elements. All right. So I'm going to create firstly the function that does the sum, and I'm gonna name it sum. All right. It takes x elements. All right. Let's suppose our function is returning the sum of 5 or maybe just two numbers, right? Like x and y, all right? And then x plus y. Pretty simple, right? And then we want now another function that calls this sum function in order to return for us the sum, and then we divide it by the number of elements, which is 2, all right? So we're going just to come and create another function named av, which takes 2 elements. It calls for us the sum function, and then we divide it by 2. So pretty simple. Like once you come in your program, you call the av function. You call the av function. You put here, for example, 1, and here you put 2. What's gonna this function do? It's gonna come here, all right? It's gonna come here and call for us this sum function, all right? It's just gonna come here, go back here, all right? What we want this. This value is gonna be replaced here. Isn't gonna be replaced, but this is gonna be counted, and then we will have it here. All right, so let's just have an example. If, for example, this were 1 and this were 2, so 1 and 2. So now we will call sum with 1 and then 2. We will come here, you know, the program is gonna call this, right? And then we're going to do the summation of x and y. And after that, we're going to divide on 2. This value is going to be 1 plus 2. All right? 1 plus 2. And then we divide it on 2. So 1 plus 2 is going to be 3. So this whole stuff here is going to be replaced by 3. And then 3 divided on 2. So let's try to write this program so we can understand the idea of the functions. Very well. Now, we will have a function that returns for us an integer value, which is returns the sum of 2 numbers. Sum and this, all right, and A and B. Right? And it returns, all right, take a look. This is just very simple. It's just the syntax. But what matters is the idea. In programming, what matters is the idea. You may have different syntax. It doesn't matter. If your logic is, like if you're thinking logically, algorithmically, everything else is going to be perfect. All right? So here, we will have sum. This is the name of the function. Int, this is the return type of the function, and then we have int, this is the type of the first parameter in the function, all right, and this is the type of the second one, and then the name, all right. So in mathematics here, we suppose that those numbers, for example, belong to x and y belong to a specific x, and y belong to, I don't know how to write like belong to here, but like something like that, belong to neutral numbers, all right, like something like that. All right, I hope like the idea is very clear. So which means 1 from 0 to plus infinity. All right, we have no fraction numbers, we have nothing like that. We just have x, y belongs to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on. So here, what we're doing is that we summarize A and B, we summarize both values, and then we return the value. Alright, this is pretty simple till the moment. Now let's create the average function. The average function may return a fraction value, like here, as you can see. The value is 3 divided on 2, which is 1.5. Alright, so here, that's why we're gonna have float, which means a fraction number. Alright, and we're gonna call it av. Alright, and then it's gonna take a. Alright, it's gonna take an integer a and then integer b, and then we're going to return what? Take a look. We're going to return the sum of a and b divided on 2.0. Alright, that's very simple. We have here a function named av that takes a and b, two integer values, and then it returns a sum of those two values divided on the number of those two values, which is 2. So this is the basic idea of functions. A function has input, some logic process that is going on inside of the function, and then we return the value from the function. That's perfectly how it is going on. Now, sometimes a function in programming may not return a value. Alright? Sometimes a function will just, we will call it, it's gonna print something, it's gonna say something, it's gonna do something, but without returning any value for us. Alright? You can think of it as a tool for doing some repetitive task that we actually do not, that task do not actually need any data to be sent for them because it's constant. It is just repetitive in the program. That's why instead of calling and writing the same code multiple times in the program, we simply write it once and we call it each time we need it. Like here, for example, sometimes I may want to print, for example, some string. All right, I want to print, like, and then I'm gonna say here char s. All right, you don't really need to understand every little detail for the moment, but we're here just explaining the ideas of the function. All right, you're going just to say printf, and then this liner just prints the string that we've sent. You can think of this one that is here as a string. We're sending a string, and then we're printing that string. That's it. It's pretty simple. So the same thing for this main function, and as you can see, its name is main, which means crucial and necessary. This function has to be in every C program. We're gonna see why. Now, let's suppose the program has multiple functions. Alright, as in our case here. So, when the program gets into, or the cursor that, does the program, like when we get into the program like that, should the program start from some function, or it's gonna start in the a function, or it's gonna start in the print function? No one knows. That's why there is something called the main function. The program always is gonna get in and go to the main function and starts performing from the main function. Alright? Perfect. So now let's call the av function inside of the main. Alright? We're gonna delete the print because we don't need it anymore. And then we're gonna come here to the av function. We're gonna say av, alright, and then 10 and then 20. What's gonna happen again? Try to guess, try to pause the video, guess what's going to happen. You do not really need to understand every little bracket there, what is going on there, or every little what it means, but just try to see if you can understand the idea of the code. If yes, that's perfectly fine. We don't need to understand everything, we only need to understand what's enough. Alright? That's good. Now, this 10, 20, what's gonna happen is that the program is gonna get in, it's gonna go to the main function, it's gonna get into the average, alright? So this is the wrong name of the function. Av is gonna come to av, alright? And it's gonna send 10 and 20 to the function av, alright? It's gonna come here, av, please take 10 and 20, alright? Yes, okay, I've took 10 and 20, alright? And then we're going to return sum of a and b divided on 2.0. So there is another function here. So what's going to happen is that the program is going to go up, send again the value that we've got a and b, which is 10 and 20, and then it's going to return its sum here and replace this name of the function with that. And then it's gonna be 3, and then we divide it on 2.0, and then we get here 1.5. Well, I just here tried just to give an overview about functions. You don't really need to understand perfectly everything, because I just want to have just an idea about the importance of this function. I know I've just I went really extra, but I hope things are clear. You don't really need, again, to understand everything, you just need to understand enough. Alright, so this end, what is the meaning of this end? As we said in the beginning here, end means the return type of the function. Why the main function of a program has to return end? Well, every program, alright, bear with me, every program has a specific return type, alright? And this specific return type is used by maybe the system, maybe another program that's called your program, and if your program failed, alright, it's gonna return some wrong value, so the parent that called your program will understand that the program failed. As an example, you're working, you've opened, for example, a program, and you've opened the program. This program is A. This program needs, for example, a file. Well, right? This program, for example, encrypts a file for you. So, and then you send, when a user clicks on choose file, it's gonna call a file picker, which is another program. This file picker will show you all the files on the system. So what you have to do is that you have to click on the file that you want, so the program, which is the file picker, will return the path of the file so the program can encrypt it. But let's suppose you've just closed this window, you didn't return anything. Or maybe you've done something there wrong or whatsoever. How this, when this program is going to return some specific value that this program understands except the file paths. So the file picker tells the parents program that call them that the program, the user didn't provide us with a source for the file that we want to encrypt. That's perfectly how the idea is going on. It's just like that, all right? And you can even just think of it simply like you've started a program. In order to know that the program exited successfully, you have to see the return value of the program. If the value of the program is like a value that we all agree that, okay, remember, if it is a value that we all agree with, that if each program returned this value, that means that the program exited successfully. But if the program returns some other value, which is some specific value that again we will agree on that it is the value for wrong things if they have done, for the wrong things if they have happened in the program, all right, we will see it. So here is very simple. That's why we return 0. After finishing all the statements that we will have in our program, all the statements, we will come here, and what we're gonna do, we're going to return 0, which will tell that the program exited successfully. But otherwise, if our program returns some other value except 0, that means that the program exited, there were some problem going on inside of the program itself. All right, so that's a pretty simple overview of the previous program. Remember again, those things are very simple. This little stuff that you can see here are just this stuff here. I mean here, from this bracket, this curly bracket to the closing bracket, it's just the scope of the function. It just defines what statements belongs to the function. And as you can see, you can find it for each one. And those ones defines the arguments that the function takes. All right, and if there is no argument, that means that the function takes no argument, like in the main function. And this one here means the type of the return function. Pretty simple, right? Pretty simple. All right, so if there is any question again, you can guys put it in the comments. If I said something wrong, please guys correct me. We're here to learn from each other. Thank you all. And I really hope a good luck for you, learning journey, and for me too. Thank you all.